The book nobody can read. Even after 600 years. Imagine finding a book that's over 600 years old. The pages are real. The ink is real. The handwriting is real. Experts can prove exactly when it was made. There are hundreds of pages, thousands of words, detailed illustrations, complex diagrams, entire chapters. There's only one problem. Nobody on Earth can read it. Not historians, not linguists, not the greatest code breakers in history, not governments, not supercomputers, not artificial intelligence. For more than 6 centuries, this book has sat quietly on a shelf, almost mocking humanity. Because somewhere in those pages is a message, a story, knowledge, secrets, something. And nobody knows what it says. This is the story of the most mysterious book ever discovered, the book nobody can read, the Voynich Manuscript. And trust me, this story only gets stranger, because every time experts think they've solved it, the book wins, again, and again, and again. The story begins in 1912. A rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich was searching through an old Jesuit college in Italy. Most of the books inside were exactly what you'd expect. Religious texts, scientific journals, historical records, old dusty books that probably hadn't been touched in centuries. Then he found it. A strange manuscript unlike anything he had ever seen. At first glance, it looked normal. Old books look old books. But then he opened it, and everything changed. Every page was covered in writing, lines and lines of symbols, thousands of them. They looked like letters. They behaved like letters. Words repeated in patterns, sentences followed structure, paragraphs had organization. But nobody recognized the alphabet. Not Latin, not Greek, not Arabic, not Hebrew, not Chinese, nothing. It wasn't similar to any known writing system on Earth. Imagine opening a book written in a language that shouldn't exist. That's exactly what happened. But the writing wasn't even the strangest part. The drawings were. The manuscript was filled with plants, hundreds of them, detailed illustrations with roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and labels. The problem? Most of those plants don't exist. Some look almost familiar, like a rose mixed with a sunflower. Others look like combinations of several different species stitched together. Some appear completely alien. Imagine if someone tried drawing plants entirely from memory after seeing them in a dream. That's the closest comparison anyone has come up with. Scientists searched botanical records. Nothing. Researchers compared medieval herb books. Nothing. Experts identified individual parts from real plants, but could never identify the whole thing. It was as if someone invented an entirely new ecosystem. Then came the astronomy section. Suddenly there were stars, constellations, circular diagrams, moons, suns, strange celestial symbols. Some pages folded out into enormous charts. One foldout stretched across multiple pages and contained a giant circular map that nobody understands even today. Then came the part that made everyone uncomfortable. Pages and pages filled with drawings of women, hundreds of them. Many appeared to be bathing in strange green liquid. Others stood inside tubes connected to pools, pools connected to pipes, pipes connected to more pools. The entire thing looked less like medieval medicine and more like instructions for maintaining a spaceship. Some historians believe they represent medical treatments. Others think they're alchemical processes. Others believe they're symbolic diagrams about human anatomy. The honest answer? Nobody knows. That's the frustrating thing about this manuscript. Every answer creates 5 new questions. Naturally, experts assumed the text was a code, because surely that's the only explanation. Somebody encrypted a message. Simple, right? Wrong. The world's best cryptographers got involved. These were the people who broke military ciphers, the people who decoded enemy communications during wars, the people whose entire careers existed because they were better at puzzles than everyone else. And every single one of them failed. World War I cryptographers failed. World War II cryptographers failed. Cold War intelligence experts failed. University researchers failed. Computer scientists failed. Artificial intelligence failed. Imagine dedicating your life to solving impossible codes only to lose to a weird plant book from the 15th century. That has to hurt. What makes this even stranger is that the text behaves exactly like a real language. Certain words appear frequently, others appear rarely. Sentence lengths vary naturally. Patterns exist. Grammar rules seem to exist. The statistics match real human writing surprisingly well. Random nonsense shouldn't behave like this. If someone simply smashed random symbols together, experts would know immediately. Instead, the manuscript follows hidden rules. Rules nobody understands. It's almost as if the book is written in a real language that humanity somehow forgot. And that possibility is terrifying, because languages don't simply disappear. They leave traces, artifacts, records, references. This language left nothing. It's as if an entire civilization vanished without leaving footprints. Then came the theories. And there are a lot of theories. The first theory is simple. It's a hoax. Someone created a fake language to trick wealthy collectors into buying an expensive, mysterious book. Makes sense. Except for one problem. Creating hundreds of pages of fake text with realistic linguistic patterns would be incredibly difficult even today. Doing it in the early 1400s? Nearly impossible, especially because the text remains internally consistent across hundreds of pages. Whoever wrote this wasn't improvising. They were following rules. The second theory is that it's a coded scientific text. Perhaps a doctor wanted to hide medical knowledge. Perhaps an alchemist was protecting secrets. Perhaps a scholar encrypted discoveries to prevent theft. This theory remains popular, but if it's a code, nobody has broken it in 600 years, which would make it one of the greatest encryptions ever created. The third theory is the strangest. The manuscript was written in a real language that no longer exists. Not encrypted, not fake, simply lost. Imagine discovering English 1,000 years after humanity disappeared. You might recognize patterns, you might identify punctuation, but without context, the words would remain silent forever. Maybe that's what happened here. Maybe we're looking at the final surviving evidence of an entire culture that disappeared from history. Then, naturally, came the alien theories, because humanity has rules. Rule number 1. If something remains unexplained long enough, eventually somebody blames aliens. To be fair, some pages do look incredibly strange. The plants look impossible. The diagrams look unfamiliar. The writing looks completely foreign, but aliens usually make for terrible historians. Most mysteries turn out to involve humans being weird, and humans are incredibly weird. Then came one of the biggest breakthroughs in the investigation, carbon dating. Finally, science could provide answers. Researchers analyzed the parchment. The results came back, early 15th century, around the year 1404 to 1438. Suddenly, one thing became clear. The manuscript was real, not a modern forgery, not a Victorian prank. Somebody genuinely sat down 600 years ago and spent years creating this thing. Think about that for a moment. Hundreds of pages, thousands of words, detailed illustrations, complex diagrams, fold-out maps. This wasn't an afternoon project. This was years of work, possibly decades. Someone dedicated a significant portion of their life to creating a book nobody understands. Why? Who spends years creating something if nobody can ever read it? Maybe they expected someone to understand. Maybe they assumed the language would survive. Maybe they believed future generations would figure it out. Or maybe the book was never meant for us. And that's where the story becomes unsettling. Because imagine being the author. You spend years recording knowledge, stories, medicine, science, religion, whatever was important enough to preserve forever. You finish the final page, you close the book, and then somehow, over the centuries, everyone capable of reading it disappears. Your language dies, your culture vanishes, your knowledge survives, but your voice doesn't. The book remains, the meaning doesn't. Maybe that's why people find the Voynich Manuscript so fascinating. We live in a world where almost every mystery has an answer. Need directions, open your phone, need information, search the internet, need to identify a song playing in a restaurant. Your phone can do it in seconds. We're used to answers, instant answers. Yet this book refuses. It refuses every expert, every theory, every computer, every generation. For 600 years, humanity has knocked on its door asking the same question: what do you say? And for 600 years, the book has remained silent. Somewhere, 6 centuries ago, a person picked up a pen and wrote an entire book believing somebody would understand it. So far, nobody has. Maybe one day somebody will crack the code. Maybe a student somewhere will make the discovery that changes history forever. Maybe an AI model decades from now will suddenly understand what generations of experts could not. Or maybe the Voynich Manuscript will remain exactly what it has always been. A reminder that humanity still doesn't know everything, that mysteries still exist, that somewhere between everything we've discovered and everything we'll eventually understand, there are still shadows. And inside one of those shadows sits a book, waiting, patiently, quietly, for someone, anyone, to finally read the first sentence.